My name is Nancy. I'm standing on my balcony, breathing in the crisp fall air and looking at the city below, alive with possibility. In my arms is a knitted pillow that a dear friend made for me, a constant reminder of the battles I've overcome. It's hard to believe that just a short while ago, my life was a far cry from this newfound peace. It all came to a head one evening in a beachfront restaurant in Hawaii. I was dressed in a navy dress that gave me a newfound sense of strength, and beside me was Lily, my sister-in-law, who I'd always thought was silent and fragile. But that night, everything changed. As we entered the restaurant, I spotted my husband, Ryan, and his mother, Mrs. Thompson, sitting at a candlelit table with a younger, polished woman. My heart sank. Lily tugged me behind a row of potted palms and whispered, "That's her, the one he's been seeing." She handed me an earpiece and said she'd planted a recorder under their table. I put it in and listened as Mrs. Thompson's sharp voice cut through the background noise. "She's useless, Ryan. You made the right call. Once you divorce her, we can finally move on without dead weight." Ryan's smug voice followed. "Yeah. My lawyer says if we frame it right, I won't have to pay her anything." I couldn't take it anymore. I yanked out the earpiece and stepped out of the shadows with Lily by my side. Ryan's eyes widened in horror, and Mrs. Thompson froze in disbelief. I spoke clearly. "Good evening. I hope you're enjoying your little celebration." Before Ryan could stammer out a response, Lily stepped forward and looked straight at Mrs. Thompson. "Hi, Mom." Mrs. Thompson's face went pale. You're walking?" Lily nodded slowly. "I've been walking for years, but you preferred me silent and weak, remember? So I let you believe it." I pulled out my phone and played the recording, exposing all their cruel intentions for everyone in the restaurant to hear. Ryan lunged forward, hissing, "Turn that off. You're making a scene." I stared him down and said, "You made the scene, Ryan. I'm just giving it a spotlight." Security soon asked Ryan and Mrs. Thompson to leave, and as I watched them go, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Lily and I sat down at a corner table, and she raised her glass of sparkling water. "To freedom," she said, her eyes shining. I clinked my glass against hers, and for the first time in a long time, I felt free. But how did I get here? Let me take you back. I met Ryan when I was in my late 20s at a business networking event. He was charming, successful, and seemed to value me. We fell in love quickly, and within 6 months he proposed. I was so eager to build a home and be part of a family that I said yes, despite a small voice in my head telling me to slow down. Ryan's family, the Thompsons, seemed perfect on the outside. Mrs. Thompson was elegant and well-spoken, and Lily was quiet but sweet. After we got married, Ryan suggested I quit my job as a junior marketing analyst at a small firm to focus on starting a family. I was hesitant at first, but part of me wanted that stability, so I agreed. At first, it was like a dream. We had lazy mornings and weekend getaways. But soon, the cracks started to show. Mrs. Thompson had a way of making me feel inadequate with just a look. Every time I visited their luxurious house, it felt like I was being judged. She'd comment on my cooking, my housekeeping, and even my choice of clothes. "You're representing the Thompsons now," she'd say, as if I was an outsider. Ryan at first would brush it off, but over time, he changed. He started working late more often, and when he was home, he was always on his phone. Our conversations became shorter, and our dinners grew quieter. Amidst all this, Lily became my refuge. She was diagnosed with a nerve disorder as a child and was unable to speak or walk. But there was a kindness in her eyes that drew me in. I started spending more time with her. She'd sit by the window, sketching with amazing skill. We developed a silent bond. I'd bring her tea, and she'd give me a shy smile. As time went on, I noticed her drawings changing. They became more emotional and haunting. One day, she gave me a sketch of a woman alone on a cliff, and it made my stomach turn. I looked at her for answers, but she just smiled and pointed at her heart. Then came the trip to Hawaii. Ryan sat me down one morning and said his parents, and Lily were going to Hawaii, and I should stay behind to take care of the house. I was devastated. Hawaii was a place we'd always talked about visiting together. But before I could protest, Mrs. Thompson walked in, her smile cold and her eyes sharp. Ryan explained everything, didn't he? We're counting on you. I forced a smile and agreed. A few days later, I moved into their house to be with Lily. When I arrived, she signed, "They left you again." I nodded, feeling the pain. But then she signed, "We have our own plans. They'll be surprised." The next morning, something extraordinary happened. I brought her tea as usual, and when I entered the room, she stood up. I was in shock. "Lily, what are you doing?" I whispered. She walked towards me and spoke for the first time. "Nancy, sit down. There's something you need to know." She revealed that she wasn't really Mrs. Thompson's daughter. Her real mother had died, and after her father passed away, Mrs. Thompson took over. When Lily got sick as a child, Mrs. Thompson delayed getting her medical help, hoping she'd die. When she survived, Mrs. Thompson spread the rumor that she had brain damage. Lily realized that by pretending to be weak and silent, she could gain some freedom. She also showed me a folder full of documents, photos, and recordings of Ryan and Mrs. Thompson's schemes against me. She said she'd been planning for this moment for years. She pulled out 2 plane tickets and said, "We're going to Hawaii. We'll confront them and make sure they can't hurt you again." I was terrified but also filled with a glimmer of hope. I took a deep breath and agreed. And that's how we ended up in that restaurant, exposing their lies and taking back control of our lives. After the confrontation, I returned home stronger. With Lily's help, my lawyer built a strong case against Ryan. The court ruled in my favor, giving me a fair share of the marital assets and spousal support. I moved into a small downtown apartment, and I found work as a freelance marketing consultant. Lily enrolled in a graphic design program, and our bond grew even stronger. We often met for coffee or walks in the park. One afternoon, as we watched the sunset, she said, "Sometimes the hardest battles we fight are the ones no one else can see, but that doesn't mean they aren't worth it." I nodded and added, "And sometimes the quietest voices are the ones that change everything." Months passed, and life settled into a peaceful rhythm. I started volunteering at a women's shelter, helping other women find their strength. And then, one autumn morning, there was a knock at my door. It was Ryan and Mrs. Thompson. They looked broken, and Ryan's voice cracked as he said, "We need your help." I just stood there in the doorway, silent. "Mrs. Thompson pleaded, "We were wrong about everything. We've lost everything." I took a deep breath and shook my head. "I'm sorry for your pain, but I won't lose myself again by trying to save people who once broke me." They left, and I closed the door, feeling at peace. This wasn't just an ending. It was the beginning of a life I'd finally chosen for myself.